Leyla and the Lamp, a story from Persia. Long ago, in the old city of Tabriz, a rich merchant lived with only his daughter. Her name was Leyla, and she was sweet-tempered and very pretty. One day the merchant said to Leyla, "It's time you had a husband. I want you to marry my friend, Mahmud. His wife has died, and he wants a new wife. He's very rich, and you would have a fine house, jewels, and as many beautiful clothes as you would like." Leyla was horrified. "Oh, please, please don't make me marry him. He's old, fat, and ugly, and everyone knows he was very cruel to his wife. I would rather die than have him for a husband." The merchant frowned. "Leyla," he said angrily, "tomorrow I have to go away for 4 days. When I return, I want you to marry Mahmud. Be a good girl and do as your father wishes." Leyla couldn't sleep that night. She tossed and turned in her bed, crying, but also thinking hard. When it was just growing light, she had a thought of a plan. After breakfast, she said to her father, "I would like a new lamp for my room. While you are away, may I have one made?" The merchant was pleased that Leyla seemed in a good mood. "Of course, my dear," he said. "I'll order the lamp maker to come to the house. You can have anything that you like." Then he kissed Leyla and set out on his journey. When the lamp maker came, Leyla told him exactly what she wanted, and 3 days later the lamp was delivered. It was very tall, had 40 smaller lamps around the top, and a secret door in the base. That night, when all the servants were asleep, Leyla crept out of the house. She took off her shoes, left one by the well, and dropped the other into the water. Then she tiptoed back to her room. She opened the secret door in the lamp, put in a good supply of food and water, stepped in, and closed the door behind her. Later that week, the merchant came home and called to Leyla, but there was no reply. "Where's my daughter?" he shouted to his servants. "We don't know, sir," one said, shaking with fright. "We can't find her, but we found one of her shoes by the well." "Oh, Leyla, Leyla, my darling daughter!" cried the merchant. "What have I done? You said you'd rather die than marry Mahmud, and now you've drowned yourself." The merchant went to Leyla's room and cried and cried. Then he noticed the lamp. "Take that thing to the bazaar and sell it. I can't bear to look at it. It reminds me of Leyla," he shouted to his servants. The servants carried the lamp away, grumbling about the weight. At the bazaar, a young and handsome prince strolled among the stalls with his servants. He stopped when he saw the lamp and asked the price. After much bargaining, he bought it and had it carried to his palace. The prince liked to eat breakfast alone in his room each morning, so every evening his servants would lay the table with food and drink, so that it was ready for him. The first morning that the prince had his new lamp, he was surprised to see all of his breakfast had been eaten, and only a few crumbs were left. The same thing happened the next morning. The breakfast was eaten. That night the prince decided he would stay awake and try to catch the thief. He went to bed as usual, put out the light, and pretended to be asleep. Just as it was starting to get light, he saw the secret door in the lamp open and a girl creep out. "Now I've caught you!" shouted the prince, leaping out of bed. Leyla screamed and tried to jump back into the lamp, but the prince slammed the door shut. The prince gazed at the trembling girl. "Don't be frightened. I won't hurt you," he said gently. "Come and sit down and tell me why you were hiding." Through her tears, Leyla told the prince all about her father, how he wanted her to marry his friend Mahmud, and how she had planned her escape. "You're a brave and clever girl," said the prince, smiling. "Dry your tears at once, and let's have some breakfast together. Then we must decide what to do." All that day, Leyla and the prince talked and walked together in the garden, thinking of all sorts of plans, and laughed at the silly ones. At last, the prince kissed Leyla's hand and said, "I would like to marry you. Let's go see your father tomorrow." Leyla was so happy, she could only nod. The next day, when the merchant was sitting alone in his house, thinking sadly of his lost daughter, he heard a carriage stop outside. Looking out the window, he saw the prince help Leyla out. With a great cry of joy, he rushed to the door, opened it, and flung his arms round Leyla. "My daughter! Oh, my darling daughter! You're alive! How wonderful! Come in, come in!" In the house, Leyla introduced her father to the prince and told him all about the lamp and the secret door. Her father was so pleased to see her again that he forgave her for the trick that she had played on him, and happily agreed she should marry the prince. He arranged a splendid wedding for them and gave them the lamp as a present.